Welcome to the Kolbecast, episode 296. Thank you for joining us. Any family with high school students considering college after high school has likely experienced various standardized tests. In today's episode, we talk to current Kolbe senior Tobias and recent Kolbe graduate Colin to talk about their experiences with standardized testing. These two have gone through it all, so we explore the different testing options, approaches to the tests, and how things have changed throughout the years. We hope that you'll enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, Kolbe homeschooling mom of 4 lads and lasses, liturgical musician, popcorn, and podcast fanatic.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Kolbe Academy.
Hi, Stephen, how are you?
Doing well. We're doing very well here. We're recording over our Christmas break, so we're in the octave of Christmas still, so Merry Christmas, I guess.
Merry Christmas. Today we're going to tackle a topic that looms large for high school students and their parents, that being college entrance exams. And it seems like we could do with some dramatic music there or something. But
Yes.
Joining us today are 2 Kolbe students, past and present, here to share their experiences taking the various exams. Colin is a member of the graduating class of 2025 and has been with us on the Kolbecast before. And Tobias is set to graduate this spring with the class of 2026, and this is his Kolbecast debut.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Will you tell us a bit about yourself and your Kolbe connection and your interests outside of school?
Yeah, so I'm Tobias. I'm a Kolbe senior this year. Been doing part-time for 8 years, varying amounts of classes, anywhere from like 1 to 4.5. And outside of school, basically split between reading and anything competitive. I'm just a competitive person.
Okay. Okay. So what sorts of things do you like to do competitively?
A good amount of sports, lots of board games with like siblings and friends and all that.
Nice.
Sounds good. What standout memories or experiences do you have sort of relating to your time as a homeschooler or as a Kolbe student? They could be happy or cautionary or some of each or something else entirely. Like what stands out to you about your school experience?
I think what stands out to me the most is like the flexibility that I've been able to have. Back when I was fully homeschooling, I would like do schoolwork for 2 hours and then spend the whole rest of the day reading. And I feel like that was like more educational to me than 8 hours of schoolwork and no reading would have been.
Good deal. Are you up for telling us what you're looking forward to after your Kolbe time is finished?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the thick of the college admissions process. I've applied to, I think, 7 different schools, and just the decision is really going to be based on financial aid. Still waiting to hear on whether I'm a national merit finalist or not. I expect to be because I got a perfect score on the PSAT.
Awesome.
But those are announced in February. And Benedictine College gives out a full tuition scholarship to 10 national merit finalists per year. So hopefully I'm able to get that. And if I do, it means I'm probably going to Benedictine. We'll see.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. Way to go.
Thank you.
Colin, it's good to see you. How have you been and what are you up to?
Hey, thanks for having me. I've been doing well. Just finished my first semester freshman year at University of Alabama. Most of the grades are in, and I haven't flunked out, so I think that's a success.
Congratulations. Good.
And just back on the Christmas break right now, about to head back to college in a few days. Getting hyped for Calculus 3 coming up, and physics and thermodynamics. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds like an engineering track.
Yes, very much engineering.
Excellent. How would you say your Kolbe education impacted your college choice and experience so far?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I'll start with my experience because I'm currently in a program called the Blunt Scholars Program at University of Alabama, where I'll be getting a liberal arts minor in addition to my major. And it's a breeze because of Kolbe, an absolute breeze.
Yeah.
Kolbe students listening to this will be like, what? Because I only had to write 3 papers the whole semester for this one class. It was wonderful. And just a few short reflections each week. And all the readings are, I think about 3/4 of the readings I'd read before. We read things like Augustine's Confessions, lots of Plato, um, some other philosophy. I'm forgetting a lot of the titles, which is embarrassing. But we read a lot of things that's also covered in Kolbe's curriculum, which was nice.
So are the majority of your fellow students in those courses, is that the first time they're encountering those texts?
It's probably about half and half. There's
Okay.
a decent amount that are definitely struggling with it a lot more than I am.
Yeah.
I definitely have a leg up in terms of the writing as well. My professor has been saying you're doing very well with the writing. There's just a few things to work on, whereas a lot of my peers are like, you got to figure out your MLA format. You got to figure out how to write a 5-paragraph essay with an intro and a conclusion. I'm like, I've already got that down. So Colby's definitely prepared me well for the essay writing part of college. And then how it affected my college choice. Well, that's a good question. I mean, Kolbe definitely opened the door to a lot more of the Catholic colleges for me, and I was looking a lot into those. I eventually chose Alabama just because of the cost of attending the Newman Guide colleges was a little more, and I got a pretty good scholarship at Alabama. But I definitely thank Kolbe for opening the door to all those good Catholic colleges, and I applied to a lot of those as well.
Nice. At this point, what standout memories of your high school years, your time as a Kolbe student come to mind when I put it to you that way?
I mean, the biggest memories for me personally are being part of and helping kickstart the Kolbe News Show. That was a great time. Shout out to my friend Dylan Matthews, if he ever listens to this. Uh, and then also going on numerous trips with Kolbe. Went on the Rome trip this summer. There's a certain someone here that I know also went on that trip. And then I also have gone on multiple of the March for Life trips with Kolbe and also the France trip and then graduations. They've all been a lot of fun. I've been very blessed to be able to go on many of those.
Tobias, do you want to add anything about the trip there that Colin's referring to?
It was just a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really learned a lot there. It was cool. It was cool, really cool to see a lot of Kolbe people there, including Colin.
It's neat to hear y'all getting to meet like that. So we're talking about college entrance exams, and in that we're including the classic learning test, the CLT, which by the way, we visited with a few folks on CLT a few times here. So will link those episodes in our show notes. Jeremy Tate and a few other folks from the CLT, we will link those. The SAT or the PSAT as well for rise for the national merit competition, or even just as a practice for the SAT, the ACT. So which ones have you taken, Tobias?
I've taken the PSAT, the SAT, and the CLT.
Okay, cool. What do you remember from that experience, and kind of what was it like approaching the first of those for the first time?
Yeah, so the first one was the PSAT, and because it was the first one, I really had no idea what to expect. Especially since I was going to be testing in person, and that was going to be at a local school, and I had never really done something like that before. It was an interesting experience.
Okay. So my 4 kids, the eldest right now is 20 and the youngest is 15. So at this point, they've all taken the PSAT, among other exams. But in that time, my kids in my house have taken the PSAT in a couple of formats. Which ones have you done?
I've done the online format. I think the year I did it was the year that they switched to the adaptive format, which kind of judges how you do based on the first module of the English and the first module of the math, and then sends you to a different difficulty of test depending on how well you did in that first part.
Okay. And kind of what is your takeaway experience from the PSAT?
I think my takeaway is probably just like relax.
Yeah.
Like I was a little nervous heading up to it, but then I got there and just kind of went with it. I've always kind of enjoyed testing, honestly. It was like my favorite thing of the school year to like take the CAT test back in middle school.
So you
But
had taken something like that before, a standardized test before that.
yes,
Okay. Okay. Continue. Sorry, talked over you again.
that's all right. So yeah, and so I just got there and just started writing a bunch of random stuff on the paper whenever I had time after a module, and that helped me to like relax and like see the humor in basically everything. It was funny.
That's a great way to, yeah.
Yeah.
Colin, which of the college entrance exams have you taken?
I've taken the CLT, the SAT, and the ACT, and also the PSAT. I don't know if that counts, but
Yeah, we're counting that one. Yeah.
We're counting that one. Yeah.
yeah. So then I've taken all the big ones.
Okay. What do you remember the first one of those that you took?
Well, so the PSAT was the first one that I took in 11th grade. And what I remember about that one is it was the first standardized test that I took that was online in that adaptive format we were talking about earlier. Um, and I remember I did pretty well on it. And the main takeaway I had for that is I really wish I had actually like studied for it instead of just going in completely cold, because it wasn't until later on that I realized that a lot of colleges will give really big scholarships for national merit finalists. And I wish I had studied because I think I probably had a shot at some of those scholarships. Uh, so that's at least a small regret I have about it.
Okay.
Back in the day, at least you could take it in the 10th. Sometimes you could do it. Is that you're nodding your head, Bonnie? So it looks like that's still the case, right? So that was my experience, Colin, way back in the day, showing up to school and it's like, oh, you're taking the PSAT. But I think that was kind of fortunately in my 10th grade year, they had me taking that. So then that was my, yeah, like, oh, that was back in the filling the bubble sort of thing.
Okay, it might have been my 10th grade year. I might be misremembering that. It's possible.
I think it really
Yeah,
varies. Like in our
yeah.
area, like our four kids have taken the PSAT starting in 10th grade. There's a local school where they have allowed our kids to sit for the test in 10th grade, and it's very much a practice round. Like, here's how this goes. This is what this is like. And they do prepare for it as though it's like counts in air quotes, but it's very much a practice round. I played golf in high school, so this is what I think of, like these are the terminology I think of, just to have the experience of doing it and know what that environment is like, and hey, look what I did, I got through this whole exam, and take notice of things like you have mentioned and how you want to approach it the following year. Homeschooling families state to state have a variety of abilities to access various services outside of homeschool. We have been fortunate to be able to find a place that will administer that to our kids. It's not the same story with AP testing, and we're not talking about AP today, but I just mentioned that to say we've had varying experiences there. And even our kids, when they have gone on to take the SAT or ACT, that's a different story because that registration process is different. Anyone can sign up to take it at one of the local places where the national test states. So I throw that out there. I may have mentioned it quite a while ago, but I have a note on my calendar in early August every year to call the school where my kids have taken the PSAT to ask them to hold a space for them. The PSAT is usually given in the fall. I didn't mean to take over this section of the conversation. I'm just throwing out our family experience here. So that has been the way we have accomplished them sitting for the test. All right, so you've each taken the CLT as well. Tobias, tell us a little bit about what that format is like and what it was like for you taking it.
Okay, so the CLT is pretty different from the SAT in its format. It's going to be online usually, and you're going to take it at home. And it's going to have 3 different sections. One of them is like analysis. They're going to give you passages and ask you to extrapolate ideas from it. Another is a more like English mechanics-based section. And then there's going to be finally the math section. And the test in total takes about like 2 hours. I think there's more time allotted for the math section than for the others. There are a total of 120 questions, and your score is based on how many of those you get correct, I believe. Yeah, my experience taking it, I found it significantly more engaging than the SAT, because the SAT, they would give you like 2 paragraphs of some modern work that you had never heard of. But with the CLT, they're going to give you like 6 long paragraphs of Dostoevsky and ask you to get ideas from it.
All right. Colin, tell us about your experience with the CLT.
Yeah, I will say the math section on the CLT was for me the most difficult of all the standardized tests I took. I'm not sure exactly why that is. It could have been part of the idea. I had the impression that it would be easier than the others because, oh, it's the classical learning test. Surely the math will be easy. But I think it honestly had a lot to do with the SAT's online format. They have a graphing calculator, Desmos, embedded in there. And for the CLT, they obviously don't have that, which is honestly, I think, better for actually testing your capabilities at mathematics. But so that definitely made it a little more difficult. I remember the CLT math section being the only standardized test section that I wasn't able to finish in the allotted time. So that was my experience. I still scored well in the CLT, but I did find the math a bit more difficult. And I also agree with Tobias about the passages. They were a lot more interesting than this SAT. And they definitely catered a lot more towards the classical education that I had through high school. So that was nice.
Okay. How old were you when you took the CLT?
Oh, let's see. I think I took it twice, and the second time I took it, I was 17. I was in 11th grade. It was towards the end of 11th grade.
Okay. What about you, Tobias?
I took the CLT once, just a few months ago, actually.
Yeah. As a senior? Okay.
Yep.
CLT is interesting to me, at least. Well, actually, all of this is interesting to me because everything has changed so much. Even like when my oldest daughter was taking tests like 6 years ago or something, it was still CLT was the paper, go to a local testing place and do everything there. So but now with my 12th grader or well, 11th, 12th grader getting ready to take it. Yeah, they even had something where you could like sign up for take all the CLTs you want in a year for just so it's not even like that. Okay, you got to take once and then that's going out to all your schools but you could just keep taking it, which is interesting. I just never thought about that before this year. But.
Yeah. So Kolbe partners with CLT. I'll link a page on the Kolbe website in our show notes to learn more about taking the CLT as a Kolbe student. Tell me about how you prepared to take the CLT. Tobias, what did you do to get ready for that particular test?
With that one, I made sure I took it during the school year. I don't like taking tests when it's not during the school year because I feel like I want to be like warmed up in that academic kind of mindset. And then my preparation for all of these tests, except for the PSAT, I did no preparation for that. My preparation for all of these tests has been to take one practice test. Generally, if I'm given options for the practice tests, just kind of like Google which one's the hardest, because that's what you want. You want the practice to be harder than the real thing. And then if I find a topic there that I'm like not great on, then I can study that. But overall, I don't do a ton of studying for it.
Okay. It's a couple hours long, you said. Did you find the duration of it, was that something that was sort of a significant factor to you, or maybe not so much being accustomed as you are to like online class and so forth?
Yeah, not so much. I was like kind of mentally tired after the test, but during the test, it was fine. It didn't go too long, I found. And the SAT is longer. I believe it's closer to 3 hours.
Okay. Colin, what was your experience there? What did you do to prepare for CLT, and what was it like, kind of the duration of it?
I'll be fully honest, I didn't prepare that much for the CLT other than just getting a good night's rest and making sure everything was clear. I did take the CLT 10 though, so I already knew all things about the format of the test. And I trusted that I had the skills ready for to take the test just through high school, and all the literary analysis I did through Kolbe and all the grammar that I had from Kolbe and from before that. So I didn't do much studying before the CLT. Um, and then the time for the test was fine for me. I think they had a break that's after the second section and before math, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while though, so I might be wrong, or they could have changed it by now. So I remember that was helpful, just having a little break. But overall, the length of the test was not bad, especially compared with the ACT, the SAT, and all the AP tests that I've taken since. It was not bad, the CLT.
Okay, good deal. Well, going back, you've mentioned the SAT separate from the PSAT. The PSAT is the practice one. So, what was it like going from PSAT to SAT?
So I found that the PSAT was definitely good practice for the SAT, just kind of getting used to the format and stuff. I found that there were very few changes, except the topics were like 1 year more advanced on average.
Okay. What about for you, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, I'll basically just what Tobias said. The SAT is just a little more difficult because it's just a little more advanced topics. But the PSAT for me was the first one that I had in that online format. And so it was good to see that and be like, oh, this is what the SAT is going to be like. We're just going to have a little more difficult topics.
Okay.
Now, is the SAT now today one that you have to like take your computer into a testing location and do it there? Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know that because I think it was the second time I was taking the SAT, I forgot to bring my computer to the testing site. Thankfully, they had an extra loaner, so that
Nice.
was lucky for me. But
I bet you're not the first or the last to do that. I'm sure that is, they are.
there were multiple other students who were
Yeah.
lined up to get the loaners.
Was there anything else to say about the CLT or SAT or PSAT before we move on to the ACT?
I think one thing might be the difference between like the types of stuff they do in the math sections with the SAT versus the CLT. The CLT is very much more geometry based,
Hmm.
and they've got a good bit more logic stuff as well.
Ooh,
Whereas
yeah.
the SAT is going to be a lot more algebra. And so I thought that was interesting. And maybe, Colin, if you're like an algebra person and not a geometry person, like I know a lot of people are, then maybe that's why you found it harder.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. Another thing I will say about the SAT is if you really train yourself on how to use Desmos to solve the SAT math questions, you can make a lot of them a lot simpler simply by plugging them into the Desmos calculator. Like, for example, if they give you a system of equations, you can just put those two equations in and see where they intersect, and that'll be your answer. And honestly, when I figured that out, I was like, am I cheating? But no, I'm not cheating because they give you the calculator on the test. Uh, so I will say little hacks like that can make the test a lot easier.
All right. So ACT, Colin, you've taken that one too. What was that one like for you?
Yeah, that one was interesting. I only took that one once, and I honestly just took it just because I could have, just because I could. I was like, I may as well take this. Uh, and I ended up doing pretty well for not having studied, which was nice. But I believe that one's in 4 sections as well. They have a math section, a science section, a reading section, and I think a grammar section. I don't know. You might have to fact check me there, going off the top of my head. Um, but I remember finding the math. I in general, maybe it was just the test I got, but I didn't find the ACT to be all that different from what you were tested on the SAT. Uh, the reading was about the same. They had recently switched out the format to be more like the SAT, so that instead of having long passages, they were shorter passages. So that was pretty easy. I'm pretty sure that they did that for the test that I took. And then what's different about the ACT is they have this section called the science section. Now, this isn't like actually testing your knowledge on like random scientific facts, like if you've memorized Kepler's laws or something like that. It's really, it's more geared towards like being able to analyze data and like graphs and things like that. And I had no idea that was coming up. I did well enough on it just because I'd done a decent amount of that through some of my math classes. But that's something to watch out for on the ACT. That's different from the other tests.
It's good to know. Yep. And it was the same kind of format. You take your computer to a location.
So the ACT, when I took it, I still took it paper.
Okay.
But I don't actually know if they've updated that or not.
Yeah.
But they may have.
Okay.
But I also took the SAT 3 times. The first time I took it on paper, and the second 2 times I took it online. So I was right in the middle of that era when they were switching things over.
Yeah. Are the SAT and ACT comparable lengths of time, like a whole morning or afternoon, taking the test with some breaks?
Yes, they are. I think the ACT was like maybe 20 or 30 minutes longer just because it has that extra section, but they were about the same amount of time. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting to me because I took the ACT multiple times. But it seems maybe it's just my area or I don't know. It seems like I hear more about the SAT than the ACT now. So I'm curious about how that has evolved and what it's like now. So I don't know. What about you, Stephen? What's your experience there?
Yeah, I took the ACT as well, and I took the PSAT, of course, and then the ACT way back in the day. And so this would have been
Yeah.
early 90s.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was like go into the big auditorium with your pencil and paper and fill in the little bubbles. And yeah, I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't know that there were things like test prep that you could do before those. So just took it a couple of times. But yeah, and at the time it was supposed to be the vocabulary was a bit different in the ACT. So which I was looking for simpler vocabulary coming from my rural Wisconsin roots at that point, but so that was a little. I would take any help I could get at that point. But
Well, we were taking those exams in the same era, so to say. But I also grew up small town. My high school did not administer the exams. We had to drive 30
yeah,
minutes to the big state
yeah,
university to sit for the exam.
that was my experience too. It was a 45 minute drive to go to some random college to sit with 100 other students in this auditorium or whatever. It was crazy.
But okay, so speaking of preparing for the exam, so Colin, I'm going to start with you this time. For a student approaching the college entrance exams for the first time, what sort of advice would you offer them?
Yeah. I'd say the one thing I wish I had done more of was research like available scholarship opportunities for certain scores on tests. A lot of colleges will throw money at you if you have a high SAT, ACT, or CLT, or PSAT as well. The college I'm at right now, University of Alabama, if you're a national merit finalist, you'll get a full ride, full tuition, full meal plan, and free housing for 4 years. And so if I had known that, and if I could go back in time, I would have studied for days for the PSAT to try and get an amazing score on it, because that is honestly a life-changing kind of thing. So I definitely highly recommend looking into opportunities if you have sort of figured out what university you want to attend, see what opportunities they offer for scores on the tests, because there can be some really good ones.
Oh, that's worth noting. And also that it's not just the National Merit Scholarship is not the only one out there. Like there, as you said, there are a whole host of
I'm
them.
sure
Yeah.
there's a bunch of others that just because I haven't researched them, they're out there, but I don't know about them.
Yeah.
It's very possible.
That made me think of the research is also good. I mean, if you're depending on your test scores, some schools will even post like, we have these sort of minimum requirements for test scores, just if you want to add more pressure to yourself going into a test, I guess. Like, oh, if I don't get this, I can't get into this college. But usually those aren't hard and fast rules, but sometimes they'll post them. So it's a good thing to be aware of, I think, going into.
Well, on that note, I have a counterbalance to that I'm going to borrow from Mr. Brendan Murphy, who's been on the Kolbecast a number of times, so I hope to have him back here soon.
Mr. Murphy.
He puts out, this is probably familiar to you guys, Colin and Tobias, if you've had him. He, before final exams, most recently, and this is not the first time he's done this, I don't think he would mind me sharing this with the listening audience, that he puts out to the students about final exams, because same thing can be said about the standardized tests, the college entrance exams, that the tests are not the measure of who a person is, who you are as a person, and that, he encourages folks to do their best, but not to connect their self-worth with how they do on the test. It's a snapshot of how you happen to do on one specific day, at one time, one experience of the test. And I think that is a real gift to give people heading into the exams, whatever exam they're taking. Like, yeah, this is important. We got to take it seriously and all stuff. It also is not, the whole measure of who you are. So I think that is, I always appreciate when I've seen him make that, give that advice before, and I appreciate it bears repeating, I think. So I am shamelessly borrowing that. I hope with all credit going to Mr. Murphy on that. So yeah.
Definitely.
Tobias, what about you? What would you say to folks gearing up for their first crack at one of these?
Yeah, I've got a few things. Number one is probably to make sure you have time to take the SAT a second time, because for the few days heading up to my first taking of the SAT, and on that day, I had a pretty bad cold, and so on test day, between the mental fog and like blowing my nose every 5 minutes, I wasn't able to complete the math section. And even though I got a pretty good score that day, I knew I could do better. So I took it a second time, and yeah, I did get a significantly better score. And so I think it's important to leave yourself time to do that, because that'll also let you not worry on your one test day about things like that happening.
That's great advice. Yeah. So that means working backward from whatever deadlines you have for college applications or whatever else you need that test score for. There are other uses for the test scores, such as applying to other programs where they want to see standardized test scores for any number of things. We've encountered that outside of college applications. So yeah, knowing when those deadlines are, working back from there. And the test dates are national dates. They're not, you got to work with the schedule they set. So that's great. Okay. Do you have more you wanted to say?
Yeah, so the second thing is, don't worry too much about the preparation you do immediately before the test. I feel like the best preparation you will have done for the test is your is in the years before the test. Like, I feel like if you just read a lot, then you're basically set, honestly. I feel like
Yeah.
that's the best thing you can do. So like if you're a parent and you've got a few years before somebody is taking one of these tests, kind of try to encourage that because they're all extremely reading comprehension based and like grammar and stuff. And these are things that you get best from reading. And then that just like teaches you how to learn. So that'll help you with the math as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the things that you've said, Tobias, so far. Like you mentioned taking testing earlier, like the old cats or whatever, so that you get used to the just kind of the process and the giving yourself multiple times, knowing that just planning on that, giving because that way it also helps to take some of the pressure off. It's like, well, if I have a bad day, there's another time that I can take it. I like to encourage the practice tests that you can usually get, and I think you've mentioned one of those before too, Tobias. But it's been a while since I took the ACT, and I didn't prep for that. I didn't know that was a thing at the time. But since I've taken GREs, I've taken fundamentals of engineering exams, I've taken professional engineering exams. And with all of those, just getting the timing down, knowing like, okay, this is doing it timed where I know I've got this amount of time to do it. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get the rhythm down so I know even how to approach. Like, do I need to be panicked going through the math problems, or can I take my time and just do them? Just kind of finding out what that feels like before it actually counts, to me, was really helpful, at least for all of those different things. Ben.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense that it's not a last minute cram kind of deal. It's like the long haul of what you've been doing the whole time as a student, and also the sort of mind and thought management when it's happening, time management, managing your thoughts and your kind of your whole system, just pacing yourself going through it. Seems a lot of that as well. Yeah. So as a mom, I know that I tend to kind of harp a lot on and you get a good night's sleep and have a good breakfast before you go take one of these things. How would you encourage students on the day of the test, to prepare themselves to enter the testing environment outside of the, here, I'm taking this test right now, whatever, like everything that goes on around it? What would you say about that? You've said some things already about that. Anything you need to add to that?
This might be a strange thing to say, but I'll say it anyway. Um, so one thing I've noticed going to take the SAT, the PSAT, and the ACT, you take them generally. You'll take it in like a public or a private school, and you walk in and everyone's like trudging along. Everyone's sad, and they're like, "Oh, you have to take this test. I'm so scared. I'm doomed." Kind of attitude. And so I've tried and just like shifted my own attitude away from that, and try to enjoy taking the test as much as is possible. Now, it is a standardized test. It's not going to be the most enjoyable thing in the world to take, but just to the extent that you can enjoy it, try and enjoy it.
I think that's great. Tobias said something similar. You like taking tests, Tobias. What do you think about that, or what else did you say to add to that?
I completely agree. I think that's great. I think coming in with like a confident mindset, like I will overcome this test, not this test will overcome me.
Again, this is making me think back in the day. Because I don't know how the modern tests work, but it seems like you also going in will want to know. Like it used to be, like one of the tests, if you just guessed and got it wrong, it counted against you. But others, if you didn't know the answer and just guessed something, if you got it right, it was fine. If you got it wrong, it didn't really matter whether you tried it or not. So knowing that going in is probably a good idea. And at least all of my engineering instructors, and statistically, I think this works. If you're going to, so obviously try to eliminate anything that doesn't work. But if you're going to guess, just guess the same letter if it's multiple choice every single time.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you just like randomly guess, you're going to more often miss what the thing is. But if you just say today's C, it's a C day. If I don't know it, and I can't eliminate it, it's just C. Then just statistically speaking, you're likely to hit on more of the answers just randomly than if you're scattering all of your guesses. So
Yeah. A few things to note, just with the SAT, and I don't know if this is the case on the ACT, but I'm pretty sure it is is that they no longer will count wrong answers against you. So it's always in your best interest to randomly guess if you don't know the answer, just for everyone listening. And also the SAT, they call it Blue Book, which is, I only found out like a year ago that Blue Book isn't just the name of a software and actually refers to something people used to take tests in. And I'm just like,
Right.
wow, really? But in Blue Book, they have a thing where you can cross off answers. So if you're like, I'm certain the answer is not A, you can click cross off answers and then cross off A. So that was pretty cool. So use the user interface to your advantage as well for the SAT.
Okay, those are very helpful. Good to know. That's exactly why we wanted to talk to you guys. And that sort of wisdom from that. So after the tests were finished, did y'all have any post-exam celebratory plans? Did you have something to look forward to once you got through the exams?
I do not usually.
Okay.
The APs, it was on a Saturday, so I think I had something going on that night. It was like I was going to a friend's house or something.
Okay.
I didn't really plan anything specifically for the test. Most of them I just kind of like rested for a couple hours and then went back to doing schoolwork.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, for the most part, I didn't like specifically plan anything post-test, except for on one occasion I was taking the SAT, and there were also a few of my friends were also taking the SAT. So we were like, we're gonna get Chick-fil-A afterwards. So
Nice.
that was fun. And then we all lamented about the ridiculous questions that were in the reading section.
A
Like,
little
what
bit of a
is that?
debrief. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Nice.
yeah, so that's all.
I have tried to take my test takers to lunch somewhere if they or to pick up lunch, even if we were heading on back for class. A lot of times PSAT is on a weekday, and the students at the school where they take the exam, they are out for that day. But usually it's a school day with somebody's got online class with Kolbe, so we were booking it back for that. But we try to at least pick up some lunch. Yeah. Okay. So then it takes a little while to get exam results, depending on the exam. What sort of follow-up, if any, do you all do? I mean, I can hear you mentioning some actually from, looking back on your experiences having taken the exams before you take it again. What sort of follow-up do you all do? Did you do after one or more of the exams?
I mean, I guess it was just looking at the score and seeing like, oh, how does this score compare to the score that I want to get, and deciding like, is this score close enough to what I want? And I found the first two times I took the SAT, I was like, I know I could get a better score than this, so I think I'm going to take it again. And I took it again, and I did. I improved my score by 100 points, and it was great.
Wow.
And once I got that score, I was like, yeah, I'm done. This is a
Yeah.
good
It's
score.
enough.
Okay. You knew what to work on that way.
Yeah.
So I did pretty much the same thing. So test scores come back pretty quick nowadays. It's just 2 weeks for the SAT and the CLT. I don't know about the ACT. And since it's all online and they give the scores to you online and stuff, you're able to see the analytics. So like your percentile, you're able to see which sections you did better or worse on. And so looking all of that is nice if you're planning to retake it, so you can see what to focus on in the future. The SAT, I believe, only lets you see more like general things, but the CLT, the analytics on their website will tell you what percentage of a specific type of questions you got right or wrong. And then it'll give you an example question so you can know what to practice specifically for a retake. And so that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Earlier in the conversation, I mentioned some of our particular experience scheduling the PSAT. I wanted to bring in some other aspects, some practicalities of getting registered for these exams as Kolbe families, because it's a different process in some respects than it would be for students in other types of school situations. So again, I would take notice of the national test dates and what process they have. Like the main ones The SAT, ACT, if I have my facts straight, you can register there and pick your location and pick your date and so forth, and then you just show up on that day. The PSAT is a different story. So it's worth checking out starting early to find a location to take the PSAT. Any other particulars like that, guys, that you think would be important to note for families who have this on their list upcoming and have not gone through it before?
Firstly, I think the PSAT, for me at least, was the same process for registering as the SAT was.
Okay.
Just kind of registering on the website, picking a location, and doing it on one of the national test dates. I'm not sure if that's everywhere. I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway,
Okay.
I'd say one thing is to look at the list of things you're allowed or not allowed to have, because that'll differ for each test. For example, the SAT lets you bring a calculator, which is nice. That includes like a graphing calculator. I brought mine from Kolbe and that was helpful. And whereas the CLT, they'll have you like put everything off in a corner somewhere and have you on webcam at all times. They have you show your ID at the start so that you can prove that it's actually you who are taking the test. And so because that's remote proctored. So
Good to know.
yep.
Yeah, the CLT, very intense proctoring. When I first encountered it, I was like, whoa, I better not mess up. And then I ended up getting flagged for having too many sheets of paper or something the first time I did it, which was unfortunate.
It's good to know going in.
Did they have like pick up your computer and show the room, something like that?
Yes,
CLT?
they did. They did.
And you're not allowed to talk during the whole thing either.
Yeah, like normally during like a regular exam or something, I'd be like mouthing the answers to myself, be like, it could be this, could be that. But like, I think I also got flagged for doing that in the first time I took the CLT. So so I had to take it again. But
That was going to be my question. Like, what happens as a result of being flagged?
yeah, I mean, I know sometimes they'll drop it and they will send your score out anyway. But if the flag is like big enough where they can't be certain that you weren't cheating, then they will drop the score and you'll have to take it again.
Did you guys have to install certain browsers or apps or thing? You mentioned the Blue Book app, or does each one of those have its own sort of basically lockdown browser? Is that what that is, or something along those lines that you have to install for each one of those?
Yeah, so for the SAT, if you're bringing your own device, you're going to install and set up Bluebook. And for the CLT, and yes, it is literally called Lockdown Browser that they're going to have you download.
Okay. I'm sure each one gives a whole preparation guide. Anything else that we haven't covered about these exams or the experience of taking them that you wanted to be sure we did?
It's everything I can think of at the moment.
Do you have any resources or recommendations you want to leave with the listeners for test prep or anything like that?
I think for each of the tests that I took, the PSAT, SAT, and CLT, the official resources were sufficient for me. Just
Okay.
like the official practice tests and all that.
Cool.
I guess I would, as I've been thinking about other suggestions, I would say probably as you have a student who's entering high school, if you're the parents, that's the time to start. Just you don't have to do it much ninth grade year, but just so you realize, oh, like 10th grade, there's that PSAT option, and then what does this look like? And then also some schools have like early enrollment options. So if you know where you're going already, and check with that school to make sure you know when you need to have everything in by, so that you're planning your testing to be done and you're not waiting to the last minute, to do those sorts of things. So those are things I guess we've experienced. And if you're a Kolbe family, you can always ask your advisor, and they can help you get all of that information too. But
Yep. And Kolbe has a whole college prep section of the Kolbe Help Center website. So we can link to that. There are all kinds of articles on that, and the advisor's huge help there. So we'll include those in our show notes, which will also have links to relevant websites and some Kolbecast episodes that are related to this conversation. One of the episodes is the recording from commencement 2025. Colin spoke at that, as did Mr. Murphy, the teacher I referenced with his good advice to test takers. So that'll be among the episodes I'll link in the show notes for people to check out. Tobias and Colin, it's really been fun visiting with you, and we sure appreciate all the wisdom you have imparted to us here about your college entrance exam experience.
I feel like I've been brought up to date on different things, so this is good for me.
And thanks for being good sports guys about us reminiscing about our back in the day.
The old days of
That's right.
real blue books. And
Yep, exactly. We wish you both the very best and are looking forward to seeing where life takes you. Please keep in touch, and thanks again for being here today.
of course.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Kolbecast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@kolbe.org.
Mary, our Mother, pray for us. St. Maximilian Kolbe, St. Ignatius of Loyola, holy saints and angels, pray for us. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam.